So if you're a party to a buy-sell agreement for a company or an enterprise, it's important to do correct due diligence prior to closing that deal. You want to make sure that you verify the representations of the counterparty. And whether you're the seller or the buyer, due diligence on the other party and on the terms of the agreement is important. You want to also verify assumptions. Even if there's not something represented in that contract, you may have made assumptions about that company you're buying. Are they licensed? Do they have certain credentials? Do they have a client base? What's their book of business? Verifying those items, whether they're part of the contract or not, is important to make sure that what you thought when you entered into that buy-sell agreement is exactly fact prior to actually spending the money or committing to paying the money. You also want to look at things like vendor terms. If you have certain terms from vendors in that company for cost of materials, if those terms are going to change upon sale, you want to know that. If it's a very thin margin company and your vendors are going to up your costs 5%, that might make that company no longer as valuable. Same thing with the book of business for client base. How many of those clients are going to leave and go somewhere else? And whether or not the seller represents are going to stay, or even if it's in the contract, there's nothing that prevents those clients from leaving. So you may want to do some covert behind the scenes contact with those vendors and clients to make sure that everything's going to stay the same way it is or get better. Always going to be some overstatements in the contract. Always going to be some overstatements in what the seller is representing. You just want to know what they are and what the limits of them are. You know that everything's not going to be as good as what you think it is. You just want to know where those limits are. You can use this information for negotiation. You can use it for money on the sale price. You can also use it to adjust the terms. Maybe you want to extend the terms out longer if the market's going to change at a different period of time. You can also use things that you discover in this due diligence that you know are liabilities or that you know are problems to trigger terms for post-sale penalty. For example, if you know that it's likely that the vendor's going to raise the price and the seller's saying they're not going to, no problem. You just add that to a term of your agreement to say, look, post-sale, if this vendor raises the price, then it'll change the terms of the agreement more favorable to me. And if you know that's going to happen, it's almost like you have that discount built in to the contract. You can even build that into payment allowances. So corporate due diligence, whether you're the buyer or the seller of a company, can be used as valuable intel for negotiating the upfront deal or the terms of the transaction after the closing.